Hello and welcome to Fowl Plays, where we look at tales of tabletop tragedy that are sure to ruffle some feathers. As always, I'm your host, Boss Goose, and in today's story, we have a DM with a reputation for destroying new parties as entertainment, who grows jealous of one player in particular and focuses all his destructive energy on trying to bring them down, only to result in a bit of karmic justice. So take a seat and wet your beak as we dive on into today's story. A good 10 years ago, in my wee days as a TTRPG player, I went to a local game store weekly to play games. The two DMs I used to play with, one for D&D one-shots and short campaigns, and the other was homebrewing an extensive anime one, were both on vacation and unavailable at the time. Enter the problem DM of said tale. Let's call him Jelly. Jelly was infamous in this local store, for he used to be one of those DMs. The ones who basically wanted to speedrun a TPK. Newbies were his favorite kind of prey. Think of him as a fusion between the Payne family from Ace Attorney and GLaDOS. He was the only one available at the time, and considering I'd spent at most 4 weekends with him, I decided to risk playing under him. Even before the game began, he showed some sort of resentment against me, since he begrudgingly agreed to let me on. Honestly, the campaign wasn't that much memorable. The basics of it was all our characters were suddenly isekai'd into a desolate and undead wasteland, so our backgrounds were irrelevant, and no, he hasn't told us anything about this setting. Two necromancers were waging war between them, and the land was caught in the crossfire. One made an army of zombies, and the other an elite group of Frankenstein's monsters of sorts. So, our level 1 group was supposed to defeat both of them, and their undead servants. You can tell it wasn't going to end well. Fortunately, the party was balanced. We had a dragonborn fighter, me, a dwarf cleric, a halfling rogue, an elf magician, and last, but certainly the most important member of this cast, was the human ranger. Why? Said ranger and their player were the only females at the table. It was common for me and Ranger's player to get to the store early and leave a bit later than when the sessions ended, since both of us went and came back there from a ride from our respective parents. We got along well, as we talked and cracked some jokes before and after the game. How is this relevant? Simple. On more than one occasion, I could swear I saw Jelly staring at us with the corner of my eye, but every time me and her looked at him, he seemed to be reading something behind the DM screen. This is as far as his out-of-game behavior went, but in-game? Remember when I said he was unfair? Enter literally every enemy attacking me. Heck, he literally spawned undead enemies out of nowhere with no setup whatsoever, just so my burly fighter were flanked or attacked from behind. Yeah, I know I was the tank and supposed to be hit, but even the players were starting to notice it, since there were occasions in which the enemy stopped fighting with them just to gang up on my fighter. And by some miracle, in the 4 sessions I was a part of, my fighter didn't die. The best highlight of the campaign, besides Magician almost causing a TPK without Jelly's help by causing our carriage to crash, was a fight against a werewolf. A werewolf on necro steroids. Jelly was looking at me with a grin on his face like he was about to maniacally laugh like a Disney villain, and said, "See this D20? All I need is a 5 to hit you, and you'll be lucky if you survive 2 attacks from him." But RNGesus either took pity on me or decided to punish Jelly, because for a good 5 or so turns, he could not hit me. Sure, my shield was but a scrap of metal by the end of it, and he did land 2 hits on me, but thanks to a second wind, cleric healing me, and Jelly rolling low on damage, my tanky boy took those hits like a champ. On the 3rd low roll, Jelly even yelled, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And remember when even the other players noticed how he was targeting only me? They took advantage of both Jelly and his werewolf being hell-bent on killing both me and my buff lizard. So they dealt a lot of backstabbing damage. Even with 4 other people literally killing him from behind, Werewolf was still focusing solely on me. And that was it. The overleveled and enhanced werewolf was dead. Jelly was seething in rage because that was most likely meant to be either a TPK or at least kill my character. And after that fiasco, he decided to end the session early. And that was my last session with Jelly. After that, my 2 usual DMs came back and I resumed to play with them. Jelly's other players soon left his game as well, with the female player joining me on my games. And although Jelly wasn't properly punished, after all, he didn't technically do anything wrong in the store, his reputation eventually led to literally no one playing with him. So he was relegated into being a player instead of a DM. To end this story, you know what makes Jelly even pettier? During all this time, I wasn't flirting nor interested in the female player at all. As far as I know, neither was she. Jelly was most likely jealous of me just because I was as much as chit-chatting with a girl he also likely was into, and used D&D to punish me. Well, that's all, folks. I wish I could say this kind of thing was uncommon, but D&D does seem to attract a certain type of person like the DM in this story. D&D is a game where fantasy becomes reality, and great things can be done. The problem comes when people try to use the game as a weapon against others to fill some kind of void in their life and establish their so-called superiority over them. Now, I don't know Jelly or what his personal situation was, but the fact that he took pleasure in crushing new players paints him in a bad light right away. Someone like this playing a gatekeeper of sorts probably ended up driving a good number of people away from the game who would otherwise have loved the hobby. And his constant focus on bringing down OP in this story for the sole reason that he was friends with a female player that Jelly might have had a crush on is foolish, and definitely not the way that you show someone that you're interested in them. I'm glad it didn't go any further than that though, and that karma struck back as Jelly's plan blew up in his face, when the dice smiled on OP despite his best attempts to take him down. It's good that Jelly's been relegated to a player now rather than a DM, and I hope he learns from this and mellows out a bit, because at the end of the day, D&D is a game for everyone, and this kind of behavior really creates a stigma about the game and hurts the hobby, both in the short term and the long. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video and sticking around till the end. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I upload new content every Thursday and Sunday, so make sure you check out my channel for more D&D stories. And if you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and leave me a goosebump in the comments below. The support is greatly appreciated. But until next time, be good players.